What is author marketing mastery through optimization, you ask? I'm going to tell you. It's the best way for us authors to make a living selling our books. Are you tired of hearing gurus tell you your book is only good enough to be a lead magnet for services? Are you tired of feeling like you have to be a slave to social media and then frustrated when that time doesn't actually help you sell books? I was too, until I found Ammo. Ammo is the only program that reliably produces results, and it works for anyone. Is it hard work? You bet. Do you have to overcome some of your own prejudices to make Ammo work for you? Absolutely. But rather than being another program that rah-rah shish-goom-bahs tries to get you emotionally excited only to offer unclear methods, Ammo shows you how to design profitable ads step by step through a unique, never-before-tested formula. The founder, Steve Piper, is a data-loving, formula-driven author who escaped the kingdom of Amazon to build a platform for himself where he sold directly to his readers and built a loyal following. With Ammo, you know who's reading your books, how to contact them, and what they want to read next. If you've always been frustrated with Amazon's wall of mystery, of not knowing who's reading your books, of losing 50 to 70% of the hard-earned money you make through book sales, Ammo solves all of those problems by putting you in the driver's seat and showing you how to fulfill your books directly to your readerships. Click the link in the show notes to learn more. Let's get right into it today. My guest is Ashley Emma. She is a fellow Ammo customer, author, and she is kicking butt and taking names. A couple of the interesting things we cover is her success selling paperbacks. And I found it interesting to learn that she's had more success selling ebooks through Amazon and paperbacks through Ammo. I can't sell paperbacks to save my life. My ebook deal keeps me running up and alive, but audiobooks and paperbacks don't seem to be of interest to my customers, or I haven't figured out how to highlight the value quite correctly. But Ashley is killing it. And so this is a super fun conversation with somebody who's about the same place in their Ammo career as me, but way further ahead in the publishing world than I am. Take note of a comment and a part of the discussion toward the end of this episode when Ashley talks about why she picked Amish romance. It's fascinating to hear her story and what happened to her because of that choice to hone in on that genre. I hope you really enjoy this episode. As always, there's links to my books, there's links to Ashley's books, there's links to her doorbuster, there's links to Ammo. If you're an author listening right now and you want to make money as an author and a living, then Ammo is a great way to do that. I'm trying to bring guests to you just about every week who have made money through Ammo. So you see that it's not just a couple of success stories, but a repeatable pattern. That's really all I've got for you right now. So please enjoy my conversation with Ashley Emma.
This is TRBM Ammo Edition. If you're a published author and want to make a living writing books and selling them to avid readers, you've come to the right place. There's simply no program that's more successful at driving readers towards the books you've written. So the only thing you have to worry about is writing a great book. And the system within Ammo takes care of the rest. Thanks for listening to this conversation.
That's why I niche down so much, because if you do just regular Amish romance, it's really hard to sell. So mine are like Amish crime and Amish fairy tales. Yeah. So like no one else. I think there's one or two other people that have done Amish fairy tales, which I didn't realize till after I published mine. I was like,
That's
oh,
very
that
cool.
was the first one. And
we have to
Bible stories. Yeah. So
we have to dive into those niches because they already strike me as being like super nichey, which is fun.
Yeah.
And then I guess with that, you have light bulb in the background for anybody who's just listening. So it's clear that you're using electricity. Are you Amish? Do you have history with the Amish? What brings you to writing Amish romances or Amish in general?
I'm not at all. I'm not Amish at all. But I started when I was 19, I think.
Wow.
I'm 32 now. Yeah. I used to, when I was a teenager, I started publishing fantasy. And I published my first book at like 16 on Lulu, and I would sell them out of my car. And then when I was 19, my mom started reading Amish romance, because that's more the demographic is like women 55. It's like Christian women 55 plus mostly. So she was reading it, and I read a series by Wanda Brunsetter, I don't know how you say it, and I loved it. And so I decided I'm going to write one, but I didn't know anything about it. So I lived with Amish families, and my books are set in Maine. So I live in, but they're
you do
like 2 hours, 2 hours north of me in Maine, in Unity, and Unity College is there, which is very well known. So I went there. I called them. First, I called Lancaster County because everyone thinks of that. And I didn't know there were Amish in Maine. So and they said, why don't you just go to the one in Maine? So I called them, and I couldn't find any phone numbers except for a store that was there. That was Amish. So I called the store, and that owner invited me to go stay with him and his family. And he had 9 kids at the time. And that was 12 years ago. I was 20, so it was 12 years ago when I first went. And my mom went with me because I was scared. So she went with me, and we brought our own clothes. We went to Goodwill and got long dresses. We just wanted to blend in.
Sure.
They didn't tell us to. We just wanted. They
Felt
said
like that was the right thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we brought toilet paper because we didn't know if. And then when we got there, we were really embarrassed because they have toilets in their house.
Yeah.
And they don't use electricity, but they use like propane lights on the ceiling that they would light. And then
they do. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know I forget how they run their toilets. I think it was propane.
I was going to say most plumbing doesn't actually need electricity except for the hot water portion of it. So yeah.
Okay, because they did have hot water and showers, which I was really surprised. But other than that, like, I don't think they had a fridge. That place, they don't have refrigerators. In Pennsylvania, they do. They have propane run refrigerators. So each community is very different, and like, especially each state. But each community really decides, like the bishop and the elders will decide what's allowed. So, you might go one place. They had in Unity a bike repair shop that the Amish people owned. But other places, bikes are banned. So it's really different. Yeah. And like they'll use scooters. I don't know why that's better. Okay. They're allowed to ride scooters, but they can't ride bikes.
That's really interesting.
So, it's very different depending on where you go. So
my mom grew up in golly, now I'm going to forget the version of the church. This is horrible. Mennonite? Anyways. No, not Mennonite. It wasn't quite that serious. But they couldn't read the newspaper on Sunday. They couldn't drink coffee on Sunday. It'll come to me eventually, or I'll put it in the front matter of the podcast. But it's not Latter-day Saints either. No, it's a traditional Christian church. So, but anyways, she grew up in that tradition, and I always thought it was funny because they had these rules. And the rules sometimes seemed a little bit arbitrary, and the way that they would get around the rules. And as much as I am deeply open to exploring and understanding and just like loving different cultures and practices, it's strange that propane is okay, but electricity is not okay, because you can generate electricity with propane. So it's sort of like a technicality, and it's really weird.
That's true. And I was surprised when like in Unity, they would have ice houses under their, one house did, others didn't, but the first house I went to had like a room. Sorry, my kids are outside and they might yell, but a room under their house full of ice, and they put all their food in there, like huge blocks of ice.
Yeah.
They would go to the pond and get blocks of ice and bring it there.
Wow.
And I think most of the houses had that. And then I'm trying to remember if any of them had refrigerators. I don't think so. I think it was more in Pennsylvania. We actually go to Lancaster every year.
You do? Okay.
With my husband's grandmother lives right there. It's Lidditz. So she lives right next to it. So people ask me if that's why, but I didn't get married to him till a few years after I started writing Amish romance. So it's totally not connected, but we do end up going there every year. But my books are not set there.
Okay. Nazarene, by the way. It's Nazarene. That's what Nazarene. My mom grew up in.
Yes. Okay.
So, and then that's my next question for you is, so not Amish, maybe kind of an interest in Amish culture. Did you grow up in the church? So like you have all of the background of Bible and Jesus and all that kind of stuff? Or is that also something that you're just interested in, but not necessarily a practicing person for?
Yes, no, I'm Christian. I've been a Christian my whole life. we go to church locally, and we homeschool, and well, that's not really connected, but a lot of people who are not Christian homeschool. But yeah, so I'm definitely practicing Christian. So I was already pretty familiar with a lot of their beliefs. It's very similar. When I went to Unity, a lot of pretty much everything we believed was the same, except for the electricity part, and not having and the way they dress. Everything else was the same. So I could really easily relate to them. And they let me ask a ton of questions, and I still have more that I forgot to ask them that I need to, that I've thought of over the years that people have asked me. I'm like, oh, I should ask. So I might need to go back soon. And so.
Couple little setup-y questions. One, I have heard that the Amish have kind of maybe even an unwritten rule, but basically, even in your case, if you reach out and say, I'm needing a place to stay, I'm traveling through, part of being Amish is saying, yes, my house is open to you. Feel free to come and stay. Did you experience that as being true, or is that false?
I think they didn't say so. But when I called and they did not know me, they said I could come. And then after that first family I stayed with, I met everyone there pretty much. I mean, at the time it was 75 people. And when I was there, another family invited me back. It was that man's brother or sister. Sorry. Okay. His sister invited me back. And then their friend invited me back. So I went 3 times. And then one of the daughters got married, and she invited me to her wedding. So we actually ended up getting that close that she invited me. So I got to go to an Amish wedding, and it was like great. 3 hours. Yeah, it was really interesting. Very different than what, no cake, or there's no kiss. There's nothing.
No kiss?
There's no kissing. There's no vows. It's
my goodness.
Like a church service. It's 2 hours.
Wait,
was it 3? Oh, I'm trying to. I think it was 3 hours. I think it was 9 to 12. And then it was all very slow hymns for like an hour and a half. 3 different people preached. And then at the end, it was like a really quick, they stood up, did really not normal vows. It was like a shorter version, and there was no kiss, and it was just your husband and wife. That's it. So there was a potluck lunch after. Okay. So there was no catering, no cake, no flowers, only a cappella music, singing. Okay. No instruments.
Wow.
And the dress that she wore was the same as what she would, the clothes they would wear is the same as what they would always wear, but they would make a brand new dress. That's all. But it was like a blue dress with a white apron and a white head covering. And
oh my goodness.
So it's so different than.
Yeah.
So whenever I have a wedding in my books, I have to explain, the difference. And people are curious about what their weddings are like too. So
yeah, absolutely. That's I wouldn't have thought that it would be that different necessarily, but it makes sense. And then the other thing I've heard is that every Amish child, when they grow to maturity, I guess, then they're told to go out into the world and decide if they want to continue to be Amish and live their life as an Amish person, or if they want to leave the Amish community and enter kind of the wider world, I guess. And that's like their version of a bar mitzvah almost. Is that accurate to your understanding? Is that true?
Yes, although I don't quite know what a bar mitzvah is, but it's this is.
Oh, sure. So bar mitzvah is the coming of age for the Jewish community, and they do it at 13. So it's obviously a little bit earlier, but it's when the Jewish community traditionally decides that boy, and I think they only do bar mitzvahs for boys, is a man, quote unquote.
Okay. Yeah.
But
it's similar. So it's kind of funny. Where I went in Unity, they don't even do that. They said we'll let them go if they want to. No one has yet. So it's been 12 years. I bet by now someone has. I think in the bigger communities, and I've always read it in the novels, they do, and it's a big deal. And they're allowed to go for a year or so. They call it Rumspringa, and it's called it means running around. So they get to go experience.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of them really go on the deep end, and they get into the drugs and the alcohol, and then they don't come back. And then a lot of them do come back, and they get to, if they come back, they stay. They have to stay. And if they end up staying, they get baptized into the church. And if they leave after that, they're shunned. And that's not for every single community, but that's normal. Sure. And where I went, no one's ever been shunned. No one had ever left. No one had ever joined. That was an outsider.
That's crazy.
So it's kind of more not much has happened there, not much drama. So but yeah, in the books they talk about that a lot. So.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. So is that then, like, I'm picturing in my mind that might be a whole subgenre, is if you're going to write Amish romance, you write Amish romance during their Rumspringa. Right? I mean, when they go crazy, you're like, that's an easy place to write romance.
I guess so. I have not. I've mentioned it. Like some of my characters have gone and come back. Okay. And a lot of characters in my books will end up just leaving. So like, that seems kind of negative, but if they fall in love with someone, they'll leave. Or really a lot of times in my books, I try to keep it positive. So like an outsider will join in to get married to an Amish person, which is it's pretty rare. I don't think that happens very often, but my readers like to read about it. And I think that's normally what happens. And if they do leave, I try to make it so there's no shunning or anything negative. It's like they leave before they get baptized, and then they stay close with the family, or they live nearby and they still talk to them, and they're not, outcasts or anything. So I don't think, I think in my first book, she does get shunned. She leaves after she's baptized and she's shunned, and she ends up going back undercover as a police detective. So no, she pretends like she's coming back to stay, to rejoin, but she's actually a detective, and there was a murder and she has to investigate. That's fun. That's the only one where like one of my characters is shunned that I can think of. There's a lot. So I have over 20 Amish books, so I'm trying to remember which one is. But I don't write about that as much as I think most of the other ones do. So a lot of the books are about the shunning and the Rumspringa and all the craziness. But although a lot of them are like a kind of a little bit of a different genre, like you said, like they're like the scandalous ones. Most of them are very like sweet, wholesome, clean. That's what the readers want. Like the readers who read Amish romance don't want any like sex or violence, or well, mine do have violence because they're crimes, but not nothing too bad. No swearing, nothing. They want like a good, clean, wholesome story. So I try to keep it positive. Although my books do deal with very heavy topics, but I try to paint the Amish in a positive light, if that makes sense. Of course. Yeah. So it's always a balance.
So you've written 20 Amish books. Did you write anything outside of the genre, or did you know right away that this was the thing for you?
I have, when I was 14, I wrote a fantasy novel and then like a fantasy novella. And those are not.
That's right. You said that.
Yeah, they used to be published and I took them down because one day I might do a pen name and branch out and do that. And then I have like a young adult Christian romance suspense that's published, but no one reads it because it's not Amish. And I'm known for the Amish books and no one cares about my other stuff. When I was 19, that's when I decided to just write Amish. And ever since then, that's pretty much all I've written. I did like a co-writing book with a few other people. The guy who wrote Chicken Noodle Soup for the Soul, I did one.
Okay,
and then
cool.
Ray Brem, and then those were like nonfiction. And I have one about my trips to go research and live with the Amish, and the rest are all Amish fiction. So that's pretty much
2 nonfiction.
Yes, exactly. One released yesterday. It's Amish Red Riding Hood. So
awesome.
Last night, actually at midnight, it came out. So that's cool. Brand new. Yep.
Very cool. And so everything is self-published.
Yes.
Except possibly the Chicken Noodle Soup one for the Soul.
No, they self-published that one.
They do. Okay.
They did. And I have 2 audiobooks that are published by Tantor Media. My first 2 Amish books I ever wrote, and that's it. They just did the first 2. So that is something I would like to do. I know Steve talks about audiobooks in the course, and I haven't gotten that far yet. So that is something I would like to do down the road when I save up some more funds and hire a narrator. I have a narrator picked out, actually, probably that Fiverr that I really like. So
nice. Okay.
I end up doing that.
I was listening to these books by Chuck Wendig. He writes, what would you call them? I mean, there's some element of sci-fi, but they're in a recognizable here and now, where you have like post-apocalyptic kind of horrible thing that happens. And there's multiple narrators for those books, but Exie Sands is one of the narrators for the female characters. And like, I just fell in love with her voice, and I immediately thought she sounds exactly like who I think my main character is for my main mystery series. So I reached out to her thinking I'd never hear anything, and just said, hey, I've got this really foul-mouthed, awful human being of a detective, and I think you'd be a perfect fit for it. Which, now thinking back, I'm like, I think I just insulted her accidentally. But she said that sounds exactly like my kind of book, and so I ended up working with her. It's expensive to get them made. But when you're self-published, owning the rights to your audiobook is a really cool perk that I think a lot of authors don't think about. And with that said, I have not figured out how to make decent money with the audiobooks yet. I only have 2 of them done as well. And so I can't figure out the price point right now to get people interested in it. So anytime I've run an audiobook funnel, it flops pretty hard. We'll get there, though. We'll get there. We'll get there.
But yeah, one day I think mine are like $7.50, which is really cheap, and I only get a
so cheap.
Is it? That's not a normal price. I think they're more like $15. I think normally.
So like Steve was even talking about it on the call today, and he said that basically the model at the moment is Audible, and Audible gives you credits, and an Audible credit per month is $10.95. So he's like, generally speaking, audiobooks are being kind of capped at $10.95. So if you want to enter into the field and be a little bit cheaper, maybe do a deal for 2 of them and do like $14.99. He said $19.99. Every time he says $19.99 for like 2 of something, I immediately flinch. I'm probably wrong. I don't know. I mean, it just seems tough to sell 2 audiobooks for $19.99. That's roughly the same price as Audible. You're just trying to divert them from that flow into yours, right?
Okay, I think so. I'm not as familiar with audiobooks. But I tried to sell my ebooks at $19.99, and I sold none.
Right. Yeah.
My readers are used to paying less. So
this is a really good. It's a good transition to talk a little bit about this. I want to wander a little bit. I don't want to necessarily just talk about ammo, but you are known among the group, I think, for selling paperbacks. That's kind of your area. You're selling a lot more paperbacks per transaction than most people. Is that right? Am I remembering correctly?
Yes, it is. I started out with just ebooks, and I could be profitable. It's really, really weird because on Amazon, I sell like 90% ebooks, and I'm in Kindle Unlimited, and most of my money comes from pages read. So I had to remove one series from from Kindle Unlimited to test it on Ammo, and I tried that for like 2 months, and it just wasn't working. And then someone said how they were publish or sending out books from their KDP account. And so I thought, okay, I'll do that. And when I set that up, it just started snowballing, and I was profitable. And then this week I increased my ad budget by $5, and I'm not. I'm just waiting for it'll return to its profitable state. I have to give it takes like a week. It takes more than 3 days for me. But I actually took my ebooks. Sorry, I put my ebooks back in Kindle Unlimited because of my new release. I knew I'd make a lot through that. So I want to put them back in. So right now I have my sales pages with all my paperbacks, and then they can click to go to Amazon and buy the ebook. So it says, if you want ebooks, click here and go to Amazon. So that's working. My royalties are great on Amazon. I'm happy with that. And I think with my readers, that's better for them because they were having a really hard time with downloading the ebooks because they're 65 plus, and they were just like, what is BookFunnel? And they get confused. And then they would think they were paperbacks all the time. And I know that's a common thing in ammo. So it just works better for me. I know a lot of people have said, don't put anything about Amazon on your page. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. So I did.
Okay. So that's a great thing because I love coloring outside the lines with this program, but I want to make sure I'm completely understanding what you're saying. Your ebooks go directly to Amazon.
Yeah. So it's, it's the page is for the paperbacks because it's very strange how on Facebook, 99% of the people want the paperbacks, and on Amazon, they all want the ebooks. It's the same age range. It's the same audience. I don't know. So it's funny because on Amazon, I don't really sell any paperback. Well, like now I do because of ammo. I didn't notice it until the other day, but someone texted me and said, how much do you make in paperbacks per month? And it was like 200 or so for the longest time. And I'd make like 4 or 5, whatever thousand in ebooks and pages read. And I'm like, I hardly sell any paperbacks. And when ammo started taking off, now I make like 1,000 in paperbacks. I didn't even notice until I went and looked, and like in June, it went from 200 to 900. I didn't do anything. I'm so focused on ammo. I'm barely touching Amazon right now. So I know that's from ammo. So that's great.
amazing.
But yeah, it
That's
just
amazing.
says, here are my paperbacks. If you want ebooks, click here, takes you to Amazon.
Okay.
And that works because they trust Amazon
Right.
they know how to download it.
So I guess one of my questions then is, if you're running it that way for the ebooks, are you capturing their customer data somehow? Do you build your list, or if they go to the ebooks, you get the reads, but not the customer?
I think you're right with the second one.
Okay.
It does say in all of my ebooks in the front and back, click here to sign up for the free book. So I think a lot of them are doing that. And that's how I've grown my list. I have about 30,000 now between the two lists. So it's been 6 years. So it took a long time. Yeah. But yeah, I think a lot of them are doing that. I hope so.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I guess there's a specific way to know. But I'm okay with that because I get the emails with the people who get the paperbacks, and that's most of them, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So
structuring this conversation is tough because I'm personally really drawn to the idea of being able to run a profitable paperback model. It's it's where my own heart is at. If you could see my surroundings, I'm surrounded by books. I buy paperbacks all the time. Hardbacks actually are my very favorite. I own so many hardback books. I don't like reading ebooks. It's a last resort for me. Okay. I will read it because more self-published people tend to focus on ebooks. And so I will when I have to. I like audiobooks as well, but I just really love holding the book in my hand. There's a different relationship I have with it. I tend to prefer authors who I've read in paperback. And maybe that world is dying. But because that's the case, and Steve will say this all the time, don't try to imprint your tastes on your audience. But I really want to figure out how to get paperbacks running. And I currently have not. The last paperback I sold was to a friend of mine who has a fiction podcast. I literally have not sold a paperback since him. So, and that's been weeks. So I'm profitable with ebooks right now, but I can't sell paperbacks.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, now that Book Vault has come out, I can't wait I need to actually set that up because I spend about a half hour or so a night shipping them out from KDP, which is no big deal. That's fine. But I'm excited to not have to do that anymore. So, because I've screwed up a few orders. It's really hard to keep track. It's just like, if you have 10 or so a day, I'll just, I go through and click each one. And I think occasionally skip over one by accident. And they'll email me and say, where are my books? And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. I'm like, I do this all by myself, so I'm sorry if I skipped it. And I'll send them an extra book to make up for it.
Nice.
So they get an extra book and I'm like, sorry, here's book 4, you can get, because I do trilogies.
Okay.
That's what most people buy is the first book. And it's like a giant, here's one.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the one, but it's usually like this.
Oh, wow. That's really substantial.
Yeah.
That's uncommon for romance. Is that common for, okay, wait a sec. So I'm remembering a conversation in the Facebook group, but it's not yours, you said? Or
well, I'm in it. It's 14,
it's an anthology.
It's 14 authors and
gotcha.
It's novellas, but it looks about this size and it's 3 full-length books inside. So. I
gotcha. That's right. So you were the one who was having the conversation on Facebook recently about you basically are bundling your books right now. So you're selling multiple books inside of one. It's a trilogy, but it's all bound together.
Yes, and they are full length. It's just a lot cheaper to print it that way. I mean, it's actually not that much cheaper. I thought it was going to be, but I recently someone said, why don't you just test selling them 3 individual books? Because I didn't realize on Amazon, if you do more than one book, the shipping goes up by like $2. It's not that much.
Yeah, right.
So I did that, and I was charging, I think, $40 instead of, it was like $10 more. I can't remember which series it was, and no one bought it. So I think they just like this the cheaper price point.
Yeah.
And it's essentially the same thing. One or two people have complained saying, I have arthritis and I can't hold
big books.
This is probably a pound and a half.
It's heavy. Yeah, it's a big book.
I don't know how, but it's, so it's not like a regular paperback. So
I just read your fellow Maine writer, Stephen King, collected the Bachman books, and it was The Long Walk. And it's like big like that book you were. And I do notice it. I notice when I'm holding a really big book that it's just a little more cumbersome. You can never find exactly the position you want. So you're moving your hands a lot more than if it's a smaller book.
That's true.
But I like the feeling of a substantial book too. My favorite books are all really huge. So.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I thought more people were not going to like that it was big because they're older, but
it doesn't bother them.
I don't think for the most part, I think it's okay because people are constantly commenting in the ads saying, I got mine. I love it. I read the whole thing. I'm buying the next one. And I have a lot of repeat customers and they just keep getting the trilogies. And then I have one-click upsell, which I highly recommend. Rachel told me about it. Rachel, and I was using Sell Easy, but it limits you to 2 items when you're upselling. And I have 6 books, well, at least 6 books in each series. So I want to upsell them, at least 3 books. So I switched to one-click upsell and you get to do, like they buy the book of the first 3 and then it offers them 3 more. And then if they accept it, it offers them 3 more.
Wow.
And if they don't want it, it offers them something else.
Yeah.
So I think that's been making me more money. Definitely. That's
awesome.
People like to get the whole series. And before I couldn't offer them. They're like, how do I get the whole series?
Right.
I'm like, sorry, I can only offer you 2 more.
Talk to me a little bit about how that is actually working for you. So I'm curious, how are you structuring your paperback offer? You said you're doing trilogies. So you do 3 books in one. What is the cost of the 3 books that you're doing in your offer?
So if they want, I have 2 series that are the first 3. And then my other one is 5 books in one. And it's probably this big actually. And I had to do like a smaller font, but it's probably, this is slightly bigger.
So for everybody who's listening, I mean, it's like 2 inches thick, basically.
It's 800. So the maximum amount of pages you can print on KDP is 828 pages. Okay. And this one is like 820. It's up there.
Wow.
So it's all 5 of, well, now there's book 6 that just came up yesterday, but it's all 5 books in one. And it's funny because I offer them that or the first 3. So the first 3 are $19.99. And if they want all 5, it is, well, with shipping, the first 3 are $25. And if they want all 5 books, it's $35, including shipping. And everyone gets 5. Occasionally I'll sell.
That's really fascinating.
Isn't that funny?
I mean, like you almost doubled it basically for 2 more books. So you actually, it's a worse deal for 5 than it is for 3. And they're still going for the 5.
Yeah, right. Because with shipping, I want to, it's 30. And then with the shipping, it's 35. So and they're still they're paying more, which was surprising to me because they didn't want my 3 separate books. They just wanted to pay less for one giant one. So that's what I've been doing. And then I upsell them book 6 now. I just set that up. And then for the other 2 series, it's the first 3 books in the trilogy paperback. And those are $27, including shipping. So it's like $19.99 plus $7 shipping or something like that. And I'm thinking of raising that. Yeah. But I make like a $13 profit on it. It cost me $13 to ship it and print it.
Talk to me a little bit about the way that you're structuring your ad targeting specifically. I haven't talked enough about that on this podcast, but it seems like it's a good place to talk about it since you're having success with paperbacks. What does the targeting look like? If you don't remember exactly every single target that you have, no worries, but I'd love to know how you're targeting to do what you're doing.
Okay. I'm looking it up right now to check. So I know it's Hallmark. And Naomi just said on the call, she does Hallmark too, actually. That's definitely those kinds of people. They want like a feel good, clean story. And then I have, now how do I find edit? Okay, edit audience. Oh, here it is. Okay. Debbie Maycumber, which is what my coach told me to do about a year ago. And then Wanda Brunsetter. She's the only Amish author I can find to target on there. Like Beverly Lewis is the most well-known, I would say. She's not an option on there, or else I would use her. So it says Wanda Brunsetter, Hallmark Channel, romance novels, Hallmark Hall of Fame. I think that's the TV channel. Cozy mystery, Hallmark movies, contemporary romance, Debbie Maycumber, historical romance, which is like, similar if it's a clean historical book. And then romantic thriller, because I have one series that's a suspense. And then it must match Amazon Kindle and ebooks.
Oh, really?
So it's
you're intentionally targeting ebooks, and yet you're selling paperbacks.
Yeah. I mean, it's so weird. And everyone will comment saying, well, when it was just ebooks, they'd say, I don't read ebooks. I only read paperbacks. And I think it's just the age group.
I wonder if does that mean that it's almost like it's a function of your audience as much as anything else then?
You mean like specific to that audience? I think so.
Yeah. I was going to say, I mean, like, because I actually still skew almost as old as you do in terms of sales. Even though I'm selling gritty mystery, most people who buy are 55 plus. So but it seems like it's almost as if something inside of your audience including the age, is causing people to want paperbacks.
And I don't know what it is, because on Amazon they all get the ebooks. It's really bizarre. And I think if you tried selling paperback, I think with that age group, I didn't realize your age group was 55 plus, that I think that would be great for you if you ever wanted to. Now that Book Vault is out, you could set it up. But the weird thing is, with the freebie funnel, in the beginning of Ammo, I had the freebie funnel only.
Right.
And I did okay with it, but no one was buying. They would download it and they'd say, how do I download? They would get confused about Book Funnel. Okay. And that should have been a red flag. And a lot of people have that problem though. And then when I switched to direct sales, my sales went way up. And it's funny because I'm still targeting people who like ebooks. Yeah. So isn't that interesting? Isn't that weird? It
is weird.
I might try that to just reading, take off ebooks and just put reading and see if that makes a difference. But the other day I tried the freebie funnel again and I ran it for about a week and I didn't make any sales on it. So
really? Okay.
I don't even know how many downloads I got. I don't think it was very many. So I think it's just they don't care about ebooks. And it's weird because when I started Ammo, I didn't think I'd sell any paperbacks. I was like, why bother? I don't sell any on Amazon. I'm not going to sell any here. I didn't expect that at all. So kind of weird how it was the total opposite. So
it is. I would really like it just because that's how I prefer to read. And so as much as I know I'm not supposed to try to cater to myself, in the back of my head, I just follow the numbers right now, regardless of what I want. I follow the numbers. So if an ad is doing well, I don't care if I like it. I don't care if I think it's pretty. I just run it. I've got an ad going right now that is muddy looking. The graphic itself does not appeal to my eyes. I do think it's funny if you look closely at it, but on the size of most people's screens, it's got to just not look very good at all. And it's only got about a 4.5% click-through rate. It's costing me $1.38 per click. And every single time someone clicks on it, they buy it right now. I'm like very close to 100%. I don't get a lot of clicks, but when they click, they buy. And I've never seen that happen before. So it's like, I'm just kind of watching it in bemused awe. Like, how is this happening? How am I selling on such a crappy ad? But something must prime their mind to buy.
Wow. How do you know if so you're looking at the purchases and how did you figure that out that they were all buying? Or did you Shopify or?
No, it is a mix of Shopify. So I do one of the unpardonable sins of Ammo, and that I do use this same page for the podcast. So people have an opportunity to visit my buy page through my podcast the same way. Because I always thought if I'm doing an Ammo podcast, I should better offer my readers the same opportunity to buy my books here as they would elsewhere. Steve says never mix, because then your data is not pure. And that is true. But in this case, Shopify will tell me every time someone clicks the hello.jodijsperling.com link. And I know that those people are coming from either my podcast or my Facebook ad. And then I'm just able to narrow it down based on, like, today I had 3 people visit that page, 3 of them purchased, 100% retention rate. So that's how
Wow, that's so good for an ad. None of my ads are like
that. No, I've never had anything even close. And like I said, again, imagine if it were converting at like upwards of 6% and it didn't cost me almost $1.50 per click. I'd really be in the money.
Right.
But you just kind of go along with what you do. It's weird to me. And I want to hear you talk a little bit about this too, because I imagine you've had some of this same stress. I wonder sometimes in having maybe, let's say I have 10 ads right now that all have the correct metrics to do what they're supposed to do. When I have a good day, I always wonder, would one of the other ads have done better? Do you have that ever where you're wondering, like, this one's great, I'm making money, but what if I could have done better?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Although right now I only have one campaign running, because that was the only way to get out of learning. I wasn't learning for my ads were in learning.
I've never gotten out.
I had to put it up to 100 a day to get out of learning. And it was only at 39 sales a week. It wasn't 50 like I think most people 50. Isn't that weird?
Really?
They're out now.
So pause really quickly and then remember what you're going to say. But so once you get out of learning, do you notice that you build better traction? Like, do you actually see an increase in sales, or is this like this mythical thing of like, hey, I escaped learning, but nothing really changed?
It's not that different. It's although I think that my ads are like ultra sensitive, because anytime, I know Steve says up to 20% every 3 days that you can increase it. And if I increase my budget by $5, it just barely breaks even for like 3 or 4 days. It's been since Friday.
Wow.
Wednesday. Did I change it Wednesday? I think I increased it by $5 on Wednesday. And I think I've been in the negative since then every day.
Oh no.
And I'm it's so annoying. Yeah. It'll go back, I think, but it has every time. It just takes a while. So
okay. So you mentioned that earlier, and I do want to wrap back around to that for people who run Amazon ads, or excuse me, Facebook ads, regardless of whether they're part of Ammo or not. I've not had the patience to do what I think you're saying you're doing, but you basically are committing to an ad for 4 or 5 days, sort of regardless. If it was successful, you raised the budget, it tanked. You don't go in day 2 and just say, screw it, I'm changing everything. You actually sit with it. You used
I did.
Okay.
And that's why I was in learning so long, because anytime I would increase the budget and it would tank, I just start over and I would just duplicate it, shut those off, and make a new set. And
that's
then
what I've always been doing.
Right. Yeah. I just kept changing, and it didn't give enough time to get out of learning. And they're like, don't touch it for like a week. Just don't touch it. And so I'm like,
really?
Okay, I'm going camping. I didn't have internet anyway. Didn't touch it. And when I got home, it was out of learning. And I'm like, oh, okay, good. And then I increased the budget, and then it tanked. And then the next week.
Because when you increase the budget, it kicks it out of learning, right? I mean, I kicked it back into learning. Or is that 20% thing where once you're out of learning, you can increase it X amount without harming the learning phase? Yeah.
I am not sure. I think mine are just different, but I haven't gone out of learning, but they're just, it's really weird because I'm getting the same amount of visitors to my store. So I can't really tell if it's like just a bad day or a bad week, because it's getting me the traffic, but not as many are buying. So that's not the ad's fault, is it? It just seems like it is.
I don't know. That's part of the problem is that I actually don't know. I do have an ad that was close to 9% at 70 cents per click. I had one that was better than that. I had one that was over 10% at like 50 cents per click. And it's something about the way that the ad is served. It generates a lot of interest. Even if it's on sales mode, it generates a ton of interest, but doesn't necessarily prime people to purchase. It's one of the things I don't understand about Amazon is like, why did this ad get so many clicks and so few sales versus the one I'm running right now, for example? I might get 3 clicks a day, but if they click, they buy. No clue why.
That's really interesting. I don't know. Yeah, it could be the graphic or the copy. It's hard to know, right? But I'm not sure. I haven't seen a huge difference. Maybe if I left it alone and stopped increasing the budget, it would be better, because like it was doing really well. I was making $50 a day approximately profit, so I was really excited. And then I guess Wednesday I changed it by $5. And every time I do that, I panic. I'm like, I want to turn it off because I'm going to run out of money. And then it's like the next day it'll be profitable again. So I'm like, oh, good thing I left it on. But I am very much like panic mode. Turn it off. Start a new one. Yes. And just the past few weeks, I've made myself stop. My husband's like, stop touching it. Stop messing with it. Just leave it alone. I'm like, oh, I want to turn it off so bad because I keep spending 100 a day, and then I could lose up to 50 a day. Sometimes I'll lose. Oh, actually, the other day when I duplicated. So I was asking Steve, how can I scale this up with it? It's taking forever because I can only do $5 like a week, basically. So he said, you can just duplicate it and just make the next one for like $50 a day or whatever you want to do. So I did that, and I accidentally duplicated it like 3 times.
Yes, correct.
So I spent like
done this before.
Yeah, $200 yesterday, and then I happened to go in and look, and I'm like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. And it didn't get me any extra sales, which was about it. I wasted like $100 yesterday. So I don't know how that happened, but I did turn those off because it seemed like in the past, whenever I would duplicate the ad set, it would like amp up my other ads that had been running, and I would get this big surge of sales.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I did that like 3 times, and it worked every time. And this time it didn't work. So I don't know what happened, but I turned those off. It wasn't helping. And I'm just going to let these run and try not to think about that I'm losing money every day. But it's okay. It's worth it. Once it goes back, it will make
it is.
So hopefully
it will.
That profitability soon.
Yeah. My sense too is that I don't know when this will happen. I interviewed Naomi not too long ago. And you know, her kind of talking through her process just made me realize you do get to a certain point where you're going to have days where you take a big enough loss that it hurts. But generally speaking, when everything's running really nicely, you're making money the majority of days in such a fashion that, like, okay, I'm losing some of my profits here versus me. And I can only speak for myself, but right now, if I have a day where I'm losing money because I'm close enough to that profitability line where it's like losing money on a day is losing money on a week. I need to be profitable pretty much every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that'll be a fun change to get to. I do believe it's going to happen. I've talked to enough people in my genre to understand, like, I'm going to get there. But boy, oh boy, this program emotionally can take a toll. And so I want to talk a little bit about that before we wrap things up by talking a little bit about your passion for writing, because I think it's not really an episode unless we discuss like why you do what you do. But first, like, talk a little bit about the emotions. You've already hinted at it. I just want to hear more from you about what you're thinking, like, on a day where it's going screwy. What are the kinds of things you do to stay mentally healthy? Because I don't know that I win that battle every day. Some days I just take a nap. I'm not even kidding. I never used to take naps, but some days with ammo, since I've started it, I'm like, I'm going to go take a nap because I feel like I've just gotten beaten up.
It's so true. Okay, I'm not the only one. That's good. And I know I'm not the only one because I see people post about it in the group. But I literally almost shut everything down and quit a few weeks ago, right before I became profitable, which is, so ironic, right? The worst part comes before the best part. But I just felt like I was losing so much money and it's so expensive. And just seeing that money go out the window every day I'm like, okay, one thing that I haven't told people in the group is I sold my husband's car to do this.
Woo!
So I should tell
I'm so
Steve.
Happy.
I know it. I sold it. Right. It actually was crazy timing because I hired a coach last September for $10,000 to teach me how to. Yeah, it was a huge investment. I had to. I really wanted to make money on Kindle because I thought that was the only way. And I was doing pretty good on Kindle Unlimited already. And he taught me how to market my book specifically for Kindle Unlimited. And it worked really great. I pretty much made the money back and within.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I think I broke even at least. And I've learned so much from the strategies he taught me that he swore me to secrecy and I cannot tell anyone. But it worked really great. And I do apply some of that to my ammo, but, and then when I took my books out of Kindle Unlimited, I'm like, he's going to kill me if he sees me doing that. But I put him back in. It's fine. It didn't really screw with my sales at all. It was fine. But basically taking that big hit. And the other thing, he's going to pitch my screenplay he works in Hollywood. So I haven't written it yet. And that's my next thing.
Oh, okay.
But he's going to do that for me. That was part of the $10,000. But we had taken that big hit financially and then that wrapped up in about March. We finished. And then I found, first I sold the car because I was like, I'm running out of money for Facebook ads. And this was while he was teaching me, he's like, you got to put like $3,000 into Facebook ads this month and you're going to make double that or whatever. And it worked, but I needed the money. So I told my husband, let's sell your car. Cause I'm going off on a tangent, but I retired in September and I work full-time writing. So he wasn't driving every day anymore. So I said, what do you think about me selling your car? And I'm going to use the money for Facebook ads. And he agreed to it.
Yeah.
2 times. I asked him twice. Second time he said, okay, let's do it. And then you owe me a Corvette in a few years. And I said, okay. So I'm going to get him a nice car in a few years when I get profitable. But I sold the car. We got $14,000 for it. And I put a lot of it toward the Facebook ads. And I did make some of that back. And then when I found immediately after that, I found ammo and I used the rest of the money to buy the ammo course. So basically I sold the car to pay for ammo inadvertently. That's
cool.
So I got to tell Steve that I did that. But, and I used some of the money for, ammo ads too. And then I kind of ran out and then I panicked and I just kept seeing money go out the window. And, I remember I posted in the group and I said, someone talk me off the ledge. I want to quit because I feel like I'm just wasting my time and my money. And then I just go through and I see everyone's success stories and I'm like, I know I can do this. I've made a lot of money on Kindle. I think people keep telling me you make more than I do. And I'm traditionally published. And it's like,
of course,
cause they don't make as much as they used to. And, so my husband's like, please don't quit. You've come this far. Like, I know you can do it. Like I quit my job for this. Please don't quit. So I don't know what happened like that week. The next week I became profitable.
Wow.
And it was when I stopped touching my ads, stopped messing with things. And I know they tell us to test things, but with the ads, you really got to leave them alone. You can test your sales pages, but I just kept like messing with my ads. So that's why I'm hoping it will go back to the way it was. I'm giving it more time. I'm trying not to panic, but I'm at that stage right now where I'm like, did I break it again?
Yeah.
Because I've broken my ads before by just increasing it by $20 and they would shut down. So I think what I need to do is not touch my ads and scale it very gradually, like very gradually, more gradually than most people. But yeah, I know how that feels to just see your bank account. It's like $900, bam, gone.
Yes.
Because they bill you. Well, for me, they bill it in 900, and I've tried to get them to lower that, but they can't, I guess, in a business account.
Weird. Okay.
Like, you know how
mine is 600. It bills every 600. Literally, mine bills every 600. But what I will tell you is that I had right around the 4th of July. So it was actually, I was looking at my sales for the call today. And on the 8th of July, I finally did say F it. And I turned mine off because I was just losing money every day. I wasn't making any sales. I went consecutive days without a single sale. And I said, something's broken. So I turned it off. And since I've been back on again, they bill me every $3. I'm getting like multiple invoices a day for like, tiny little amounts of money. And I'm like, what is going on? Yeah, it's very weird. But yeah, I'll also say, while we're right on this topic, that I thought even before we got on this podcast conversation about turning my ad off, even though I'm selling well, because I'm looking at those numbers and I'm like, they're atypical. I have better performing ads. But Steve said to me today, when I was on the call, he said, I think sometimes people assume that a couple bad days means your ad is tanking. And he's like, got to think of it in at least 14-day chunks. He's like, if over 14 days things are not going well, then respond. But if you have a couple bad days, just walk away. That's so hard for me. It's really hard.
Me too. Yeah. Because I mean, a lot of the times, most of my income comes from Kindle Unlimited, which is once a month. I get paid once a month for that. Yeah. And then Fiverr. I freelance on Fiverr and I publish books on there and I edit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that really helps. I replaced my husband's income with Fiverr.
Oh, okay.
But which was so not planned. That's a whole
great though.
Yeah. I just posted a gig on there and it blew up because no one else was publishing. But
amazing.
It's hard to see. I'm the only one making money right now. He homeschools all my kids. Our kids, sorry. We have 5 kids.
My wife does that all the time. She's like, my kids. I'm like, they're our kids, okay? I was like, they're your kids if they're bad. They're our kids if they're doing well.
Oh, yes, exactly. Yep. Yeah. But I mean, 3 of them are in school, but 2 are little. But he takes care of them. And I forget what I was saying. But yeah, I'm trying not to turn off my ads because it's like, it's when you're freelancing and it's like, Fiverr is really good. I wish I could charge more without like not getting any sales, but it's hard money and it's just going out the window. And I'm like, oh, but I really think I know I'm going to get there. Cause I've seen so many people are doing it. It's great when I go to the scale calls and I see more and more people there every week. It's really nice to see that. I love when people post in the group, what they're making and how like their story. And to me, that's so encouraging because I literally would show my husband and be like, look, she made $20,000 this month. And he's like, yes, that's you in like 3 months. He's my biggest fan. Definitely. He's my biggest supporter. So
that's amazing. I love that.
He talked me off the list like 3 times. He's like, don't turn your ads off. So
yeah. My wife, she hears from me on not a daily basis anymore, but pretty frequently still. I'll say to her, I just don't get it. I feel like I'm cursed because it's just like every metric is where it should be, and it's the whole picture's never coming together to have that explosive growth. Like Naomi talks about it. I think Gordon Carroll talked about it a little bit. There's a day that things are not going well, and then you wake up the next morning. It's almost literally as if you wake up the next morning and everything has exploded on you, and you're selling, at 4 ROAS, return on ad spend, and it's just like, oh, this is amazing. And so you scale and things go well, and you have your happily ever after. It's tough. And so my wife will oftentimes say to me, I wish that I didn't feel so helpless. I don't know how to fix this problem. And that in and of itself, I think, is one of the most amazing statements of support, because she's never saying, quit, don't do this. She's saying, I know for sure that you're doing the right thing. just don't understand how to help you.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
that's actually
true.
so comforting in a weird way. So
yeah, that's pretty much what my husband says too, except he's like, just, every time you mess with it gets worse. So just please don't touch
leave it alone.
And I did touch it for like a day. I mean, I turned it off for like a day once, and
Yes.
I just because I needed to. And then he's like, why'd you turn it off? Please turn it back on. And I did, and it seemed okay. Naomi's like, I think it's all right if you turn it off for like a few hours, but she's like, don't turn it off too long, because then everything will stop. And I'm like, okay. Exactly. And then I just turned it back on. But I have been at that point, I want to say at least 3 times, where I'm like, I could be putting all of this money into my Amazon ads, which, by the way, I use traffic ads for, and they work, which is funny because for ammo, traffic ads did not work for me. I tried a few times. Yeah. I think it's because my books are 99 cents on Amazon, my ebooks. Okay. And so they're more likely to buy anyway. But,
absolutely.
Because when they saw $19.99 for ebooks, they'd say, what? I'm not paying that. Or even $9.99 for 6 books. I can't pay that. It's like,
different audience. Okay. I want to talk about the passion for writing, because I think like I said, it's a really important thing. But because you mentioned that, you have to stay with me for a couple more minutes, because I'm really curious. I've actually considered raising my prices on my own website so that I can do $19.99 for 5 books and make it look like a better deal. But every time I think that way, my head says they can go to Amazon and get them cheaper. What if they discover that? What if they find that out? So if I'm hearing you right, you're actually selling the same books for more, or is it because you're on KU that you're able to offer those ones cheaper and the ones that are ammo only are more expensive? Is that?
Yes. Well, it was. Okay. So when I had my 1 series on ammo, I raised the price on Kindle, took it out of KU and raised it to $9.99 for the 6-book box set for ebooks. And then I sold it for the same price on ammo. So either way, it was the same price. All my other ebooks are 99 cents. And that just works for me for that genre. The pages read makes up for it. And I feel like it gives it a boost. If I raise it to $3.99 or more, it's like no one buys it. I think it's just because that demographic, they tell me a lot. They're on a fixed income, and the only way they can afford to read is through Kindle Unlimited or 99 cents. And that's, I don't know if it's just my audience or what, but that makes me the most money. And people ask me all the time, how do you make money on a 99-cent book? And I'm like, it's the pages read. It's
on KU.
So it just it's worth it for me to do that. When it was on ammo, it was the same price. And my paperbacks are a tiny bit more on Amazon just to deter them and get it from me, which is, it's like $3 more. It's not that much more.
Right.
But because if they buy it on Amazon, I get like $2. And then if they buy it on ammo, I get half.
Yeah, exactly.
So I try to get them to.
I also like to be able to sign the book. I do really enjoy that. So.
Oh, sorry. What was the last thing you said?
I just said I also enjoy being able to sign the book. I personally self-fulfill, and I know that not everybody does, but I like to self-fulfill. So if they order, I've got boxes of my own books. I'll sign it and put a small little note in it. I was talking with David Scherer, and he was like, with Lydia, he's like, we did that for a while. Now we sell too many. There's no way we could do that. And I said, well, yeah, I'm getting there,
Put an autograph really quick. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought one of my kids was coming in. Sorry, but they're not.
No, you're fine. Actually, you probably heard my kids coming in. My wife just got back from being out and about, so there was many door slams all in a row. So you got into writing Amish romances, and I don't think anybody writes just because they think it's going to be lucrative. So you've got a passion for this. Why did you start writing? Why do you still love it? Why is it worth all of the frustration and the upset and the hardship?
Actually, it's funny you say that, because when I started writing, it was fantasy, and I just loved that world, the world building, and go like escaping into a whole different world. And I used to write like time travel, fantasy, amnesia, and all of that. And then I did choose Amish romance because I thought I could sell well in it. That is part of why I did start writing in that. Because back then it wasn't as competitive. There was like Beverly Lewis, Wanda Brunsetter, and Amy Clipston and Kathleen Fuller, and not that many. And now it's blown up more, and a lot more are indie authors in that genre now too. So I thought, I think I can sell in this. And so I did my research and I wrote the books, and in the first book, it blew up. And by blew up, I mean, I made $900 my first month. And I was like, this is the best thing ever. I thought that was it.
This is it.
And, because when I was a teenager, I'd make $100 a month, which is that looking back, it's like, oh, it was a bad book. It had no editing, bad cover. And, so I was used to that. And when I made 900, it was great. So I knew I could keep going. And so I kept writing more and more in the series. And when I do the fairy tales, it kind of lets me write the fantasy and do what that was like my first love. I call it like my first love of writing was fantasy and time travel and like a sci-fi kind of thing. And I can still do that with the Amish fairy tales, but it's a genre that makes me money. And I fell in love with the Amish genre when I started writing it more than I thought it would. So it's kind of funny. It's like I did the market research, but I ended up loving it. And then I ended up loving the marketing. And I feel like I do way more marketing and, like selling the books than the actual writing. So people are like, do you just write all day long? And I'm like, no, I mostly am freelancing or trying to sell my books. And then I'll write one when I can. But and I put out like 4 books a year, 4 or 5 books a year. Which I guess is
quick. That's fast.
So I do love it. I love the world building and the fantasy, and it's kind of like the best of both worlds, which is trying not to sound like Miley Cyrus, but it is. So
What I appreciate so much about what you're saying is that I think a lot of people listening think it has to be a different way, like that you have to be fully passionate for the thing that you go in on. And in reality, you made a very similar choice to the choice I made twice. I got my Master's of Fine Arts from Eastern Washington University, thinking that I might make a connection and get a literary agent, be traditionally published, and be like Ernest Hemingway or something. And instead, I did manage to get a literary agent, but only after I made the hard decision post-graduation to write something that I thought was commercially viable. So I'd never written mystery before, but I liked some mystery stuff that I'd read, especially Raymond Chandler and that hard-boiled tone. So I mimicked it and wrote a book. And I got a literary agent. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to be Ernest Hemingway, or I guess I'm going to be Raymond Chandler now. But here we go. We're going to do this thing. And we spent 3 years trying to market it, and nobody would buy it. And so I made a second choice to join Ammo and self-publish. And then I had all these books I had written while I was waiting for the moment of awesomeness to happen. But ultimately I took my mystery and I said, it was never intended to be a series. It was always intended to be standalone. It has a bit of a, you get to decide how it ends. It's one of those endings where it could go one way or it could go another way, and you have to decide. It's a moment of decision basically for the main character. And I loved that. But in order to write a sequel, you have to give people the decision, And so it was hard giving up something that I loved, but I also realized I love writing more than anything else I've ever done. And I only feel like a whole version of myself when I'm actively writing and putting out books and imagining stories. And regardless of what anyone says, I'm going to do that in any way that I can. So am I writing like my favorite genre, the genre that I read the most? No. Did I sacrifice one of my books and like the artistic vision I had for it to make something bigger? Yes. And am I happy about it? Guaranteed. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I don't write for a while, like I just put a book out, so I'm going to take a break. But in a month or so, I get kind of cranky if I'm like, what is wrong with me? And my husband's like, have you been writing lately? And I'm like, no, that's it. So I gotta do that. It's like my the way that I guess I unwind or whatever. It's a creative outlet for me. So yeah. And the other thing too that I forgot to mention is when I went to live with the Amish, it was literally like stepping back in time, like by 100.
Yeah, of course.
So it's like that's another reason why even just the genre in itself is like going to a whole different world, because and I think a lot of people are drawn to it because this life we live in is so fast paced. And when you go to the Amish community, it's like everything is slowed down and it's simple and it's everyone knows each other's first name. And it's like one big community of friends that help each other all the time. And you do not see that in everyday life. So I think that's why they are so drawn to it. And it's like an escape for them. So, and that's why it is for me too. That's another reason why I love the genre too. So,
So for everybody who is listening right now, tell them where they can find your books. If you want to give me any kind of link that you're using for your doorbuster or your sales page, I'd be happy to enter it in. I know, like I said earlier, Steve encourages us to kind of keep those things pure, but whatever you want, how do listeners connect with you if they want to read your books and get to know you a bit better?
Okay. So my website is ashleyemmaauthor.com, and Emma's my last name, if anyone's wondering.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
A lot of people think it's my middle name.
Yes.
And then the landing page, I'll have to send that to you if that's okay, because I have 3 of them.
Of course.
So
Yep.
I have to get you the one it's got all 3 series on it. So
perfect. Okay. Yep.
I'll just send it to you if that's okay.
Of course.
And then that's it. And if you want to go on Amazon and look me up, if you want the ebooks, just look up Ashley Emma, and it's Ashley. And then if you want to get the paperbacks for my ammo, that'd be great, because I get 50% instead of $2.
Yes, exactly. We didn't even talk about the fact that direct fulfillment is what makes this such a wonderland, but I have covered that enough on the podcast. So hopefully listeners do know that.
Sure.
Excellent. It's been really fun talking to you. I super appreciate it. And we'll be in touch, I'm sure, through this process.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. This has been really interesting. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to TRBM. The theme music was provided by the ever-talented Christopher Talon. And hey, if you liked what you heard, share this show with other readers, because what's the point of telling stories if nobody's listening?